Welcome to Hardwood Handicappers with Zach Cohen, right here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
This is Zachary Cohen, VSiN.com senior editor with another episode of Hardwood Handicappers. Today we're going to be focusing on the All-Star Weekend, whether that's the three-point shootout, the dunk contest, or the actual game itself, which has changed drastically. We're going to talk through all of it. We're going to talk through some bets for it. And then at the end, after I do all of that, I am going to talk a little bit about the Milwaukee Bucks, who did earn a big win last night. And I do want to talk about how they kind of look in the futures market with Giannis Antetokounmpo potentially returning. But first, I do want to talk about the All-Star Game, and we are talking about this Friday, February 13th at 9:30 a.m. Eastern. So the odds I'm reading you are from DraftKings Sportsbook, but they can obviously change. They can obviously be different at different sports books, but this is what I saw the last time I looked at it. And we'll start with the three-point contest. I think that this has become kind of the star of the show in terms of NBA Saturday night. I think everyone used to love the dunk contest. The dunk contest has gotten a lot of worse because we've just seen so many dunks been recycled, repeated, all of that, and then we don't even see the stars in the competition anymore. But the stars do show out for the three-point contest, and this year's field is pretty exciting. So let's talk about that first, and we will go with the odds and kind of just put them in order of the players that are competing in this one. It's going to be Kon Knueppel as your favorite at plus 300, Damian Lillard second at plus 475, Jamal Murray at plus 550 is third, Tyrese Maxey plus 650 is fourth, Donovan Mitchell plus 650, tied with Maxey for fifth. Devin Booker plus 750 as sixth. Norman Powell plus 800 is seventh. And then Bobby Portis, 11-1 in eighth. And I think obviously the name that kind of stands out there is Damian Lillard. The guy has not played a single second of NBA basketball this year. He's working his way back from a torn Achilles, and yet you still see him at second on the odds board, and he has won this contest before. So it's really interesting that he's in it. And he's kind of the player that I go to when I'm looking to kind of pick out the winner of this one. I mean, I think that it's a little crazy to take a guy that hasn't played this year. It might sound insane, but if you really think about it, what that guy has been doing the entire year is just taking standstill jumpers, moving at his own pace, getting shots up because he's been working his way back from a very, very serious injury. So the types of shots that they take in this competition, they're kind of exactly what he's been shooting all year long. So I think that that's a huge advantage to him. It's also an advantage that he knows exactly how to win this competition because he's done it before. There are other players in this that are great shooters, but have never done it before. And it's so different actually going on this setting and shooting at a high level, which is why I think Knueppel, who's probably the best, actual shooter of this 8-man group, is not the player that I'd be looking to back at plus 300, even though I do think there's a chance he wins. Like, I'm not crazy. I think that, the best shooter in the world, or not the best shooter in the world, best shooter in the competition. I don't want to say that when Steph Curry's still out there, but the best shooter in this competition has a chance to win a shooting competition. But I do think there's a chance that he kind of starts slow and some other players just kind of take him out. Like, I do think that Lillard has a really good shot of ending up in the final group. Jamal Murray's a player that I think in this type of competition is definitely dangerous because I think that if you look at everyone in this kind of, contest, Murray's the one that gets the hottest. Like, he just can go on absolute heaters at any given moment. He's not afraid of any type of pressure. I think he's going to be a kind of natural fit here in a three-point shootout. And then players at the bottom, man, I was looking into some things like over on money balls because you can bet all different types of things for this competition. You can take the winner overall outright. You could take the player to have the highest score in round one. You could take players to score over under certain numbers in a round. And you could take over unders on the amount of makes in a money ball rack, which means that, each player now gets to choose one spot of the 5 spots that is their money ball rack. So their favorite spot on the floor has 5 balls that count for more. And that's going to be the spot on the floor where these players are most confident. So I was looking into that because I do think that maybe there's some value in going with like an over on a money ball rack for a player towards the bottom. Like, it's only minus 200 to take Powell to make 3 threes in his money ball rack. So to go 3 for 5 in, a standstill shooting from your favorite spot on the floor seems very reasonable. I'm not sure I want to take it because it just seems like a sucker play in a way. So I'm nervous that he's going to end up missing. But the ones that actually did stand out to me were Lillard plus 140 to go over 3.5 money ball makes. I think that that's a high number, but 4 for 5 or 5 for 5 and you win. And that might seem difficult, but again, this is a guy that has been shooting nothing but standstill threes as he's worked his way back from injury. And it's going to be his favorite spot on the floor. And I do think there's a really good chance that he ends up making 4 or 5. So that is in round one, I should mention. Like, it's not going to count in round two. You're not getting all of the money balls for the entire competition. It's just round one, but that is an interesting market to look at. And for Portis, that's the worst shooter of the bunch. Only minus 155 to go over 2.5 on his money balls. And that's really interesting to me because that is a low number and it's not a lot of juice. And like I said, all of these guys can shoot. And Portis is maybe different from the others in that he's a big man. He's like a stretch 4, stretch 5, whatever he plays for Milwaukee. It depends on who's out there with him. And he's not, the best shooter of this bunch. But you're talking about an empty gym, nobody guarding him, and him shooting from his favorite spot. I would think he could make 3 or 5. So that's actually the one that I will end up taking is Portis over 2.5 at minus 155. I know that's a really good play when you're looking at this. And then, like I said, you're looking at the overall competition. I think that Lillard has a really good shot. I would kind of shop around, see if you could do a little bit better than plus 475. But I think that a lot of people are questioning why he's in this contest. And he's in it for entertainment for sure. But he's also in it because he's won it and he could win it again. And I don't think the fact that he has not played this season is going to hurt him. I think that he's actually going to be more excited about this competition than anybody else, if anything. So I think there's a really good shot that Lillard ends up holding the trophy at the end. So that is my pick to win the 3-point contest. And let's move on now to the dunk contest, where I'll be honest, I saw odds last night and I forget where they were. And I have not seen them again all morning, but I did luckily write them down. So I have odds for you that I think are going to be somewhat similar to the ones you'll see when the market opens again. And I will read you the fields and the participants right now, because like I said, this is not the one where you get the superstars competing. This is going to be just guys that you've maybe never even seen play. But it starts with Carter Bryant is the favorite, the Spurs talented wing, plus 180. Jackson Hayes, the Lakers, backup center, plus 250. Kashad Johnson, I think the last I checked, he was on the Miami Heat, but that might have changed with the deadline. But let me check. But he's, I believe he's on the Heat. Yes, he's on the Heat. Plus 320 is the third player on the list. And Jace Richardson, plus 350, is last of the four. And here's what I'll give you, the kind of information that I think is worth noting in this contest. The vertical leaps for these guys as tested at the draft combine. So different years for all of these guys. None of them are all the same age. I mean, Richardson is a rookie now. So this is not that long ago that he did this, but, other players you're talking about potentially, doing this vertical testing years ago. And Carter Bryant is another one from this year. So him and Richardson, the data is very accurate. He has a 39.5 inch vertical leap, Bryant. Jackson Hayes, 34.5, but that's one of the ones that was quite some time ago. He's been in the league for a few years. Kashad Johnson, 42-inch vertical. That's something that I would put a star next to. And then Jace Richardson, 38-inch vertical. And the way that I'm kind of looking at this is I don't want to pick a big man. I know that Jackson Hayes does have some impressive in-game dunks. I think he's a guy that has kind of a lot of charisma and might look fun in this setting. But overall, I just don't see it being a big guy. I think it'll end up being one of the wings or the guards. And that's why I'd kind of cross out Hayes. And then I'll look at this between Bryant, Johnson, and Richardson. And I'm just not at a place where I think it makes a lot of sense to back Bryant at plus 180. So I think the way that you should bet this is to take both Johnson and Richardson. So Johnson, at wherever I got this last night, I think it was Caesars, but it was plus 320 for Johnson, plus 350 for Richardson. Take both, and if one of them wins, you win, 2 units or so. If both of them lose, you lose 2 units. Definitely a little bit of risk involved, but I do think that there's a chance that it ends up being one of these two, because Johnson has the highest vertical of these guys. He's also a really powerful dunker, which I think that the judges generally like. I think it's usually older players that have been in the dunk contest before, guys that were kind of winning this contest when it was normal, tomahawk jams that just shattered the backboard, but not actually. But rim rocking jams are the types of ways that you kind of win these guys over. But Johnson has a nice combination of both power and the vertical. So I think there's a good chance that he's going to do something really fun. But I actually do think it's going to end up being Richardson that wins. And it's kind of like the goofy reason of like his dad is Jason Richardson, one of the best dunk contest dunkers of all time. There's 1000% going to be a chance. I wish we could bet on this. There's a very good chance, like, I don't even know. I'd set the odds like minus 750 that he's going to put his dad's jersey on and do one of his dad's dunks. And if he does that and he makes it on the first try, he's going to get a 50. Like, that's just something people love nostalgia at the dunk contest. You always see people putting their, the old jerseys on, but when you're putting your dad's jersey on, that's like objectively cool. And I think that he's a player that he has a good vertical. I think he's going to be kind of like the favorite and the fan favorite because he's the shortest guy in the field. And overall, like you're talking about his dad, Jason Richardson, played some great years for Golden State, not too far away from where this is at the Intuit Dome. I mean, it's all California. Sure, there'll be some love in the building for Richardson, but yeah, I just think that there's a really good chance that Richardson ends up putting on kind of the most fun show. And I think a lot of that's going to have to do with him pulling off his, Magic jersey at some point and revealing that it's going to be the blue and yellow. I'm saying blue and yellow, like the jerseys now aren't blue and yellow, maybe navy and gold. We Believe Warriors jersey. It's definitely going to be that one, I think, because that's the one that I think his dad wanted. But I feel so confident that he's going to do that at some point. And I do think that he has just as good of a chance of winning as everybody else. I think that everybody in this field, like there's nobody that really jumps off the page as a great value, which is why I think just playing the two guys at the bottom could end up being the best way to profit on this event. But overall, like I'm just hoping they put on a good show. I am happy that Mac McClung's not in the field anymore because he was just winning every year, then not being a part of the NBA. And I just thought that was overall like pretty lame. But at the same time, like I'm hoping somebody can do something nearly as exciting as he did, because otherwise we're talking about some boring dunks and overall boring competition. And I am really nervous as like a basketball guy that this just is not going to last very long, the dunk contest. I don't think it's going to be around for a very long time. All right, well, we're going to talk about the All-Star game now because I don't really have much more for Saturday night. They got rid of the skills competition, which is probably my favorite of the bunch heading into like the last few years. I mean, they had changed that up quite a bit, moving it from the normal skills contest to like the bigs versus the guards, which even that was still fun, but they completely got rid of it. Now it's just a shooting stars challenge, which is like when there's an older player, a younger player, and like a legend on the floor, and one of them has to like bank in an 8-footer. I'm not going to handicap that for you. It's just insane. So we're not going to do that. I mean, there are odds up for it if you want to do it, but it's just too hard to do. And it's like, it's not the type of thing that I think there's anything that actually goes into it in terms of like wisdom and analysis. So we're going to skip that one and we're going to move to the All-Star game. But before we do that, if you're looking to sharpen your edge this NBA season, VSiN Pro is where to start. Get advanced analytics, player prop projections, and expert insights used by serious bettors every single day. Try it out for only $9.99 for your first month and see what smart bettors are using to beat the books. Head to vsin.com/subscribe and check out all of our subscription options. I say it every single time I do this podcast. I think we're offering great deals to like at least get your foot in the door and become a VSiN Pro. So make sure you head over to the website, see what we have to offer, maybe jump on that intro offer and see if you want to stay for, the rest of the year. Like I've said, the last few days on the pod, definitely a good time, for that $9.99 offer because you're getting a lot of value in it with our MLB betting guide coming out in the next few weeks. March Madness right around the corner. You will be covered for that. That is a really good value in terms of what we're actually doing over the course of the year. You look at just the sports calendar, you're getting a lot of important stuff packed into a really short window. So the intro offer is a great way to kind of get in and get some of that stuff. But let's talk now about the All-Star game, which will be on Sunday. And this is one that has just undergone some crazy sweeping changes year over year. We've gotten so far away from East versus West, and we're now at the point where they're almost trying to copy the Four Nations face-off that the NHL did, where you had the four different, regions represented and players were playing really hard because there was pride for those regions. And I think the NBA watched that. They said, oh, let's try to find a way to do that. Of course, in typical NBA fashion, they didn't quite replicate that. And maybe there wasn't a way to do it. But, I'm a little skeptical heading into this event, hoping for the best, going to watch it for sure, and I'm going to hope to enjoy it, but hoping that these players care about it. But here's the way it's going to work. It's going to be one full 48-minute game. It's going to have three different teams, and there's going to be a round robin in the first three games, which are the first three quarters of that one full game, where the two best teams in the first three games will end up playing that final quarter. That final 12 minutes will be the two best teams from round robin play competing in a championship game where the winning team gets $125,000 for each player. So game one of this is going to feature Team USA Stars versus Team World. So they're going to play a 12-minute game, and then the winner of that game will face the Team USA Stripes in the second quarter, and then it's going to be USA Stripes, because they had only played one game at that point, facing the loser of USA Stars versus Team World from the first quarter and the third game. But overall, it's 48 minutes, 4 games, 12-minute quarters, and the round robin is each team playing twice. And the way that you get into the final game is by either going 2-0 or having the two best point differentials of the three teams going 1-1. So I think that there's going to be, potentially a tiebreaker scenario, but just remember, when you are betting these individual games, point differential matters. So if you're looking to take like a money line on a team you like, I would just say to jump on the spread instead, because there's going to be some of that stuff you see during like the NBA play-in tournament group play, where it's like the final 2 minutes or final minute, even if a team is up 7 or 8, there's no reason for them to stop competing. They are going to go, they're going to play, and they're going to play until the final second of that quarter. So that is something to keep in mind. And as far as like individual games go, I'm not going to talk about the individual games because I'm not going to be playing it that way. I'm just going to take some team to win the overall competition. But let's talk about quickly who's on these teams. So that'll make things a little bit easier. In the first game, like I said, it's going to be USA Stars versus Team World. We'll start with those teams. USA Stars is plus 200. They're the long shot to win this competition. It's Cade Cunningham, Tyrese Maxey, Scotty Barnes, Devin Booker, Jalen Duren, Anthony Edwards, Chet Holmgren, and Jalen Johnson. And if you're wondering if Jalen Duren is allowed to play because he was suspended for his involvement in that brawl, the answer is yes, he will be there. He'll be competing. So that's Team USA Stars. And in game one, in quarter one, it will be taking on Team World, which is Luka Doncic, Nikola Jokic, Victor Wembanyama, Deni Avdija, Jamal Murray, Alperen Şengün, Pascal Siakam, and Karl Anthony Towns. That is game one, like I just said. So the winner of that game will stay on the floor, and they will play against Team USA Stripes in game two, quarter two, which is USA Stripes plus 170. They're number 2 on the odds board to win this. That team consists of Jaylen Brown, Jalen Brunson, Kevin Durant, Brandon Ingram, LeBron James, Kawhi Leonard, Donovan Mitchell, and De'Aaron Fox. I'll quickly say I don't know why De'Aaron Fox is in this game, not to be just like a complete hater or anything, but I feel like he's been the third best player on the Spurs this year. And I was kind of shocked that once another injury came out that it was not James Harden added to the mix, but that's neither here nor there. But yes, let's talk about these teams, because now we've talked a little bit about the format. If you have questions about this format, by the way, feel free to ask in the YouTube comments or tweet at me at BettingOnX, because I believe it might still be confusing even when you're listening to what I'm saying. Like it's nonsense and it's just chaos. But hopefully you understood it with the way I broke it down. But like I said, 3-team round robin. They're all playing 2 games. Point differential is the tiebreaker. So that's what you need to keep in mind in terms of the individual games. But as far as actually betting on this competition goes, as boring as it is, I'm going to take Team World. I'm going to look for the best price I can find. As of, recording this, like I said, at 9:30 a.m. Eastern, it was plus 165, which I saw at DraftKings. That was the best number that I saw on it. But the reason that I feel that this is the best team to back is because, for starters, just like in terms of looking at like the way these teams were designed, this is the only team in terms of like a region or part of the world or whatever you want to call it that was not split up into 2. So the best players in the world, or not USA, are on Team World. There's not 2 world teams. There's no like disadvantage there in terms of splitting them up. That's an advantage. And then I'll also add that like I think some of the best players in the world are just on this team. I mean, you're talking about Luka Doncic, Nikola Jokic, and Victor Wembanyama. Those are very conservatively three of the five best players in the NBA right now. And Giannis Antetokounmpo would have been on that list as another top five player. He's out with an injury. We know that. So, but I just think that, like, you look at the roster, like I said, three of the best five players in the world. I think a few of these players are more competitive than some of the players in the other teams as well. Like, I think Luka, Jokic, Wemby, Şengün, those are all kind of dogs. Like, those are guys that I trust in any given moment. Then you add in the fact that it's like Murray playing with Joker, a guy he's played with his entire career, with one of the best two-man games in the league. I just feel like this team has the best combination of like size, skill, and togetherness. I think that there's going to be a lot of action on Team USA Stripes, which is the team with LeBron James, Kevin Durant, Jalen Brunson. That's kind of like the legacy USA team. You're going to get like the older players that, want to go out there and win. But I just don't know if they're going to do it. Like, I feel like I look at Team USA Stripes, and I'll read the roster again because just to kind of back up this point. But my point is, like, I don't think this team is good defensively. And you tell me if I'm wrong. Jalen Brunson, Jaylen Brown, Kevin Durant, Brandon Ingram, LeBron James, Kawhi Leonard, Donovan Mitchell, De'Aaron Fox. The only player on this team that, like, there's two. Jaylen Brown and Kawhi Leonard are both A-plus defenders. But Kawhi Leonard is not going to risk his body to win this competition. There's just no chance. Even with this being in his home arena, the Intuit Dome, I just don't think this is a guy that's going to be going hard and risking injury the rest of the season to compete at a high level in the All-Star game. No matter what they're trying to do in terms of increasing competition and competitiveness, I don't think Kawhi is going to be your guy in terms of actually going out there being feisty. I think that you're better off if you're taking one of the USA teams, taking Team USA Stars at plus 200, because that team is younger and hungrier. And like I talked about the dogs on Team World, they also have them on Team Stars. Like, it's Cade Cunningham, Maxey, Barnes, Booker, Duren, Edwards, Holmgren, Johnson. The only two on this team that I would say like maybe don't have like the two-way impact that you might get as some of the players in Team One, Tyrese Maxey and Jalen Johnson. Those are the only two guys on this team that I don't trust like competitively. I think the Cade is a weak defender, but at least has size, and I think he is feisty. I think he's the type of guy that like goes on a stage like this and wants to go out and prove that he could be the best player on the floor. So if it was me choosing between two teams, it would for sure be World or Stars. But I'm going to go with World because I think that if it ends up being Team World versus Team USA Stars in what would be a rematch of the first quarter. So if you want to kind of see how they match up and they end up playing each other again, remember that they played in the first quarter of the first game, and then they would be meeting again in the championship. But like, I'll just say that if it ends up being that final 12 minutes, I think that they're going to try in that final 12. And I do think that overall Team World would just have a little bit too much talent for Team USA Stars. I think that you would see the best team, the most talented team prevail. And I definitely think there's a little more like FU from Team World compared to like Team USA of like, we're going to go into your building, your, environment, your tournament, your event, whatever you want to call it. And we're going to win your thing with our international players. I think there's definitely going to be a little aspect of that. So that's the way that I'm handicapping the All-Star game. It's going to be something that you should probably bet way less on than you normally would. Like, you don't want to go into All-Star weekend and lose a ton of money. That's really, really, I don't want to call you stupid, but look, just don't do it. It's not the type of competition to do that. None of this stuff is as like concrete and factual and based in analysis and numbers as anything that we've done throughout the entire NBA season. So why go out and bet a ton now on something that's a little bit more, not fugazi, as to, say the follow the money guys, but just different and weirder. Don't do it. I don't want you to lose a lot on this, but that's just the way I'm going to do all of the weekend. I will recap that right now. But first, I just wanted to say, attention to any listeners who are new to VSiN, signing up for our free daily newsletter is a great way to catch up. Delivered straight to your inbox every morning, VSiN's newsletter offers picks, data, and strategies for the day's betting menu. Sign up for free now at vsin.com/newsletter and start receiving your free newsletter tomorrow morning. That's vsin.com/newsletter. Stay ahead of the game and bet smarter with VSiN. Let's quickly recap what I have for All-Star Weekend all at once. And then I did want to talk a little bit about the Milwaukee Bucks, which, look, they might not have many All-Stars outside of Giannis. They don't have any. And they're one All-Stars, like, injured for the next couple of weeks. It's probably a weird team to connect with this, but that's one of the few teams that impressed me Thursday night when there actually were 3 NBA games. But first, like I said, let's recap these plays. I like Damian Lillard to win the three-point contest at plus 475. I like Bobby Portis to go over 2.5 money balls in round one at minus 155. And I'm not sure I'm going to take it yet, but I'm flirting with the idea of taking Damian Lillard over 3.5 money balls in round one at plus 140. I am going to write all of this stuff up at vsin.com like I normally do. So if I do end up taking Lillard, it will be there. It will be written up and it will be posted to the Pro Picks page where all of my official plays do end up making it. But for right now, Lillard plus 475. I am going to shop around that number, but Lillard is my pick to win a three-point contest. I'm going to take it. I am going to take Portis over 2.5 money ball makes at minus 155. And then, yeah, like I said, looking again at the Damian Lillard money ball makes, might not take it, but there's a chance I do. For the dunk contest, as I said, going to go with the two long shots, Keshad Johnson at plus 320, Jace Richardson at plus 350. I will be looking again to see when these odds come back out and see if there are better numbers, but I don't like the idea of taking the two favorites in this market. Would rather take the two long shots because I just don't think much separates any of these guys. And like I said, I actually think that the fourth player on this list, Richardson, should maybe be the favorite because I just think there's a lot working in his favor in terms of him being a smaller player and the son of a champion. There's just a lot to excite the crowd and win over the judges. So I think that Richardson is going to end up winning this dunk contest. Then the All-Star game. I'm not going to do individual games. It's just not something I feel like there's much value in. I think that, like I said, if you are going to take individual games, take the spreads because the teams not only need to win, but they need to win by a decent margin in order to ensure that they end up in the championship game. But I'm just going to take the plus money with Team World. I'm going to look around for the best prices, but I do think Team World gets the job done in the end. And that's the way that I'm betting the All-Star weekend. But like I said, if you have any more questions, drop them in the comments on YouTube or tweet at me. I'd be happy to answer. Might not answer right away, but I will answer before Saturday night, that's for sure. So definitely don't feel shy about reaching out. I like to consider myself reachable and approachable. So we'll see. Unless you're hating on me. If you're hating on me, you're either going to get ignored or I'm going to quote tweet you and be mean back. Not too mean, though. But yeah, so let's move on now to what I wanted to say about the Milwaukee Bucks, which is, like I said, it's an odd thing to talk about when talking about the All-Star weekend because this Bucks team, it's not very good. It's not very exciting. But we've talked about whether or not Giannis is going to come back a little bit on this podcast. I did a little bit of this yesterday when they had won 4 of their last 5 games. But Milwaukee went into Oklahoma City last night and blew out Oklahoma City. There was no SGA or no Jalen Williams in that game. So take with that, what you will. But this is still a team that goes out and wins games when they are missing talent. And they did have Chet Holmgren out there. And Milwaukee, you just have to say, they're playing well right now. They've won 5 of their last 6 games. They're now 23-30. And they're only 1.5 games back of the 10th seeded Hawks in the Eastern Conference. And the reason that I bring this up is because I think a lot of people think that Giannis is going to take a gap year or whatever you want to call it. Like, there's talk about them trying to convince Giannis that the best thing for him moving forward, if he's going to stay with the Bucks, is for him to sit out, get healthy, and allow them to get a good draft pick. But that's not the way Giannis is wired. And there's definitely a part of this where it's, they're on the cusp of making the play-in. Giannis wants to come back, and he tells them, like, why would I come back to this team next year if you won't even let me play when I'm healthy this year with a chance to get into the dance? Like, I know this is not a team that you should be looking at to win the Eastern Conference. It would take, insane play from, unexpected sources for them to do that. But Giannis wants a chance to go into the playoffs and, win a best of 7 with his talent because he is, arguably the best player in the world. He can do that. He could beat one of these teams, especially in a weak Eastern Conference. He can find a way to lead this group to wins as long as he's healthy. So they should not be ruling it out. I don't think they're going to rule it out. I think they're going to bring Giannis back. And when they bring Giannis back, they're bringing him back to a team that all of a sudden has more pieces that look solid than they did when he went out. Like, I know that these are guys that maybe we want to see a little bit more, but overall in the last few games, Ousmane Dieng and Cam Thomas have both given this team a spark, and they've looked like rotation pieces for Doc Rivers on a team that has been lacking competent rotation players all year. So if you actually can trust these guys to give you 20 plus minutes and you could trust them to do it nightly, all of a sudden you're bringing Giannis back to a team that does have like 7, 8, maybe even 9 like competent rotation pieces in the NBA. And like I said, that gives Giannis a chance if he's truly healthy. And I've talked about this in regards to the Hawks as well over the course of this season. I think the Hawks are awful. So I think that the fact the Bucks are decent gives them a good job of leaping them and making up this 1.5 games. And the reason I bring up all of this is because Milwaukee is like plus 750 at DK right now just to make the play-in, not even win a game in the play-in, just to be a top 10 team in the Eastern Conference, which they're 1.5 games away from being right now. It is plus 750 at DraftKings. You might be able to find a better number. Look around, but plus 750 is pretty damn good, especially when you look at, go to Tankathon or any website that you trust in terms of remaining, strength of schedule for the season. They have the 10th easiest schedule in the league looking forward to the rest of the year. And some of the teams that they're playing like multiple times, they should be racking up wins. I looked it up. They will be playing the Nets twice. They'll be playing the Jazz twice. The Jazz, a team outwardly tanking. They have games against the Pelicans, the Pacers, the Mavericks, the Grizzlies. These are all games that they have really good chances of winning. And I just think that the Hawks are going to fall apart more than they already have. So I think that this is going to be a play-in team. And I would even take it a step further and say you might as well take the 25-1 on them to make the postseason, to be in the playoffs at the end. That would require them getting into the play-in, which, if you take the play-in price, you're getting plus 750. You're getting a free roll at that point on them to make the playoffs, which is winning 2 play-in games probably, unless they really turn things around and find a way into the 7 or 8. But that's going to be way too difficult, I believe. I think that they're far too far out of that. 4.5 games out of 8. It's unlikely. So let's say that they have to win 2 play-in games in order to get into the playoffs, but that like money line rollover would not be 25-1. Like that 25-1 price is a great price if you believe this team is getting into the play-in, which I do now. So I just thought I'd mention that because we talk about futures all the time, and we usually talk about futures from the standpoint of who's going to win an award, who's going to win a conference, and who's going to win the NBA title. Sometimes there's value when you're talking about something a little bit lower, like getting the 10th seed in the Eastern Conference. Not the most glamorous of achievements, but an achievement nonetheless. So I thought I should mention it because I do think that this team is trending in the right direction. And I think they're going to keep doing it. I think they're going to pass the Bulls 100%. The Bulls have one of the worst rosters in the NBA right now after the deadline. I have no idea what they're doing, and they've lost 6 straight. And I think they're going to pass the Atlanta Hawks. And I'll also throw in that, like, while I love the Hornets, still a lot of work to be done for the Hornets, who are only 2 games up on the Bucks. So would it be that crazy if Milwaukee ends up being the 9 and hosting that first play-in game? So would not rule any of this out, but I do think plus 750, if that's the best price you could find for them to make the play-in, is a great price. But that's all I have for you for today. We will be back with a Monday episode of Hardwood Handicappers, where we'll be talking futures, and we will be doing the same on Tuesday and Wednesday. My plan right now is to talk, player awards one of the days. Then the other 2 days, we'll talk a little bit about both conferences, whether that's in-season win totals, winning the conference, where they stand. We'll talk a little bit about the East and the West. We'll break it down that way. And then I'll combine all of that with a little bit more, futures talk in terms of NBA title. And I'll do that probably in the Eastern Conference one because just, I'll give you a spoiler right now. The way that I've been seeing the Cavaliers lately, I'm seeing more of a team that I think can potentially win the NBA title than just win the Eastern Conference, which is something that I've been saying all year, is that the winner of the East is the winner of the East, and it's completely separate from winning the actual, dance, winning the actual title and holding up the Larry O'Brien and getting those championship rings. But I think that maybe my opinion has changed over the last couple of games, but we'll do all of that next week. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the All-Star weekend. And if you are tailing me, best of luck.